Do you ever ride a roller coaster that is so bad and it just makes you question why it even exists? Whether it's because of jackhammering, headbanging, discomfort, or even just a boring layout. We've all ridden some kind of coaster like that. So that's why in this video, I've decided to count down my top 10 least favorite roller coasters I've ever ridden. Something I want to make clear is that I won't be including family and kiddie coasters unless they are actually uncomfortable, which, spoiler alert, that will happen on this list. Starting off the top 10 is one that actually isn't that bad, but I didn't have many options to put on this list, so it's the Mach Small Park Wild Mice. The two I've ridden are Sand Serpent at Busch Gardens Tampa and Wild Mouse at Hershey Park. Compared to some of the other coasters on this list, these really aren't too bad, but they're the kind of coasters that not only don't really do that much, but are also just very jarring and have very, very harsh braking. At number 9 is Coco Cruiser at Hershey Park. Yes, I know this is just a kiddie coaster, but it is far from comfortable. Part of the reason is that I got stapled really badly, but who knew a small coaster like this that's so new could be so janky? And it's not the good kind of janky that you find on, like a roller coaster by Wisdom Rides. It's just plain uncomfortable. Not to mention, the trains are very small, which makes sense because it's a kiddie coaster, but it's still very uncomfortable. Number 8 is Gotham City Gauntlet Escape from Arkham Asylum at Six Flags New England. I know that I already talked about the other Mach Wild Mice, but this one is different. That is because this is actually a Mauer Wild Mouse, which means a few different things. It definitely runs rougher and jankier compared to the Mach versions, but even worse, the braking is much more harsh, which is already a problem on the Mach ones. I only rode this coaster once, and I do not plan on riding it again, especially because of the fact that I waited over an hour for it. Number 7 is Dragonfire at Canada's Wonderland. And this will not be the last time we talk about this park. Before riding this, I heard that it was pretty well maintained and one of the better aero loopers. Well, I don't know if something happened before I rode it, but it was bad. It was just your typical 2-loop and 2 corkscrew layout, but after the 2 loops, I was just waiting for it to be over the entire time. The headbanging is so bad I couldn't even believe it. This is definitely worse than the headbanging that you get on something like Viper at Darien Lake. This next one is actually a model where there are many all over the world. Some are better than others, but the ones I've ridden are all pretty similar. And I'm talking about Vekoma boomerangs. I've ridden 5 of these, but I'm only counting 4 for this list because Jolly Rancher Remix is much better than the others. So the ones I'm counting are Zoomerang at Lake Compounce, Flashback at Six Flags New England, Boomerang at Darien Lake, and worst of all, Bat at Canada's Wonderland. These rides just aren't good. They are the definition of uncomfortable. Very jerky transitions, bad headbanging on the Cobra Roll, and just an unpleasant ride experience. Not to mention the very abrupt stop on the second lift hill. The loop going backwards is the only redeeming quality because it's actually pretty smooth and pulls some very disorienting positive G's. At number 5 is one that a lot of people are gonna hate me for, and it's Magnum XL200 at Cedar Point. I am only basing this on my one ride that I got in 2022, and I have definitely built up more of a tolerance for rough and janky coasters compared to back then. So, if I were to ride this now, it's possible that I actually might like it. But anyway, back to the ride I got, I hated it, and immediately called it my least favorite coaster ever. From what I remember, it had some of the worst jackhammering on the pretzel turnaround. It felt worse than wheel seats on most wooden roller coasters. And for the triangle hills, they were completely terrible. Part of the reason is that I was severely stapled, but still, they were some of the worst airtime hills I had ever experienced, Actually no, it wasn't even airtime. It was just abruptly throwing you backwards and then forwards. And besides the speed hill, I didn't find any notable forces on this ride. And our number 4 spot is actually right down the midway from Magnum. It's Corkscrew. Pretty much everything I said about Dragonfire is also true about Corkscrew, except even worse. The loop was actually pretty good, and I sat in the front row, so I think that could be part of the reason why. The airtime hill is okay. It gave a little bit of good airtime, but that was it. By this point, you should be wishing that the ride is already over to spare yourself from what is probably the most painful corkscrews I have ever experienced. I have no idea how they managed to get this bad, and the fact that the beginning of the ride is actually pretty good, and this coaster is still this high on this list, really just shows how bad those corkscrews are. Now we are at the top 3, and this is where, unless you really want the credit, I highly recommend skipping these coasters. Starting off at number 3 is Riddler Revenge at Six Flags New England. There are a lot of people out there that really like this coaster, and I will never understand how or why. What is there to possibly like in this coaster? Maybe the aggressive jackhammering in the second half, maybe hitting your head on the back of the seat, or maybe even the train jittering in every valley. In my opinion, there really isn't anything to like about this coaster. I get that the new trains definitely help, but they do not fix it. And I can't even imagine how bad it was before it got the new trains. For the number 2 spot, we will actually be taking a break from steel coasters and talking about the roughest wooden roller coaster I've ever ridden. And it's really not that close. I'm talking about Wild Beast at Canada's Wonderland. What happened to this coaster? I've always heard that it was kinda rough, but as long as you're not in the back row, then you're fine. But that was not the case when I rode it. Just for reference, I rode in the 3rd row, which is a non-wheel seat very close to the front of the train, meaning it should be the second smoothest row on this coaster. But this roller coaster had just some of the worst, if not the worst, potholes I've ever experienced. I mean, the entire coaster is brutally rough, but some of these potholes are just so bad that I actually had to try to defensively ride because it was just that bad. I just feel bad for anyone who is assigned to a wheel seat towards the back of the train, because I can't even imagine how bad it is back there. If I rode it back there, it would probably be the number 1 spot on this list. Canada's Wonderland seriously needs to fix this because it can't operate like this. And almost everyone who got off complained about a headache or even their back hurting after. Not to mention, the layout isn't that good either, which is kinda weird because I've ridden a clone which was Grizzly at King's Dominion, which had great airtime and a great layout. And it was also very smooth, thanks to Gravity Group's pre-cut track. If they could bring that here, this coaster would improve so much, and it would go from what is like one of the worst coasters in the park to one of the best. But finally at the number 1 spot, staying at the same park, is Flight Deck. Let's put it this way. Imagine you took Riddler Revenge, gave it Vekoma's bulky over-the-shoulder restraints, and on top of that made it even rougher. I don't even know why this coaster is still in this park. It's time for it to go. Just like with Riddler Revenge, if you thought the first half was bad, then just wait until the second half, because it gets much worse. I can't decide if the Sidewinder into the Helix is worse, or maybe it's these weird corkscrew looking things. The point is that it's all bad. You could say maybe it will get the trains from Professor Screamore at Six Flags America, but I would honestly say just get rid of it. New trains can't even save this thing. So probably send those trains to something like Michigan's Adventure. So those are the top 10 worst roller coasters I've ever ridden. What do you think about this list? And comment down below your least favorite wooden roller coasters. And if you enjoyed this video, then please like, comment, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.
Crack it.